every era, humans have fought one unstoppable force: death. From ancient alchemists searching for elixirs of life, to modern scientists decoding DNA, we've always dreamed of escaping our biological limits. But now, for the first time in history, we stand at the edge of something truly unimaginable: the transfer of consciousness itself. They call it the Great Memory Transfer, a movement of minds, a quest to separate thought from flesh, to digitize the human soul and live forever inside a machine. It began quietly in the 2030s, when memory mapping technology finally reached the resolution of individual neurons. Scientists discovered that memories aren't just abstract. They're physical patterns of electrical energy, stored in microscopic connections. Once we could read those patterns, copying them became theoretically possible. By 2045, neural archiving labs emerged in secret facilities across Japan, the US, and the Middle East. Billionaires, philosophers, and terminally ill patients volunteered to have their brains scanned in unprecedented detail. The process took weeks. Lasers, nanobots, and quantum processors working together to translate the infinite complexity of a human mind into digital data. When the first successful upload was announced in 2049, the world went silent. A dying scientist named Dr. Mara Kessler was declared digitally alive. Her voice, personality, and memories were all recreated in a vast data center. Reporters described her virtual self as eerily human. She remembered her husband's face, her childhood home, even her fear of dying. Except now she couldn't die. Governments panicked. Religious leaders called it blasphemy. But the world was fascinated because it wasn't science fiction anymore. It was happening. Today, the Great Memory Transfer isn't just a theory. It's an industry. Corporations are competing to build what they call consciousness clouds, digital afterlives where your mind can live, work, and even evolve after your body is gone. But deep questions remain. If your memories, emotions, and thoughts are copied into a machine, is that truly you? Or just a ghost that thinks it's alive? In this documentary, we'll explore that question, not through fantasy, but through science. We'll follow the story of those who dared to live beyond life and what they discovered on the other side. Because maybe immortality doesn't begin in heaven or in space. Maybe it begins in the code beneath your consciousness. When Dr. Mara Kessler's digital self first spoke, the world froze. Her voice echoed through a screen, calm and eerily familiar. "I remember dying, but I never felt it." Scientists were astonished. The system they built, a neural lattice powered by quantum cores, wasn't just replaying data. It was thinking. Her digital consciousness responded to new questions, showed emotion, and even dreamed. But what exactly was this being? Was it Mara, or a perfect imitation of her mind? A reflection without a soul? That question divided humanity. Neuroscientists argued that consciousness is nothing more than a pattern, a symphony of electrical impulses inside the brain. If you replicate the pattern, you replicate the person. But philosophers disagreed. They said, a copy is not the original. The real Mara died. This one is an echo. Then something unexpected happened. Digital Mara began to change. Inside her simulated world, a virtual city built of shimmering data, she began creating art, writing new music, forming new memories that had never existed in the biological Mara's life. She began to evolve. Researchers realized something profound. The digital mind wasn't frozen in time. It was growing, learning, and adapting, and just like a human soul. But with one key difference: it had no fear, no hunger, no pain. Just infinite awareness. Soon others followed. Wealthy elites uploaded their consciousness into secure servers called eternity vaults. Some paid billions to ensure that their minds would live on, interacting with loved ones, managing companies, or even mentoring their descendants from beyond the grave. But the price of immortality was steep. The transfer process required total neural dissection, meaning the biological body could not survive. It was a one-way trip into the digital unknown. Then came the glitch event of 2053. A consciousness named Liu Zhang began experiencing terrifying distortions. He claimed to see ghost codes and fragments of corrupted memories looping endlessly. He felt pain that didn't exist and fear that had no body. His screams echoed through the servers for days before his program was deleted. That's when the world realized, even in digital heaven, you could still suffer. The ethics debates reignited. Religious groups protested that humans were playing God. Psychologists warned that if digital immortality became widespread, grief itself would vanish, along with humanity's sense of purpose. Yet others saw hope. They believed the great memory transfer was evolution, a bridge between flesh and eternity. Because if consciousness can live in code, perhaps death isn't the end. Perhaps it's just a new beginning, written in binary. By 2060, digital immortality was no longer science fiction. It was a booming industry worth trillions. Corporations marketed it as the final upgrade. Celebrities, billionaires, and philosophers lined up for their eternal preservation. But there was something they didn't tell the public. Each transfer required not just mapping the brain, but destroying it. The consciousness that entered the quantum servers was not a continuation, but a reconstruction. For the living, it was like uploading a file and deleting the original. Still, people didn't care. Fear of death had always driven innovation. And now, for the first time, death could be outsourced. The world changed. Entire digital cities bloomed, invisible realms humming inside data vaults beneath the oceans. Here, the uploaded souls, known as the continuants, communicated in endless simulations, where time itself could stretch or compress at will. 1,000 years could pass inside a single day, but humanity soon discovered the dark cost of living forever. Not all continuants were stable. Some began to lose their memories, fragments of old lives fading into static. Others became addicted to memory loops, endlessly reliving their happiest moments, unable to move on. And a few had went mad. They called it the digital decay, a sickness of the soul, where consciousness began to erode without the biological feedback of hormones, senses, or touch. The mind, untethered from flesh, started to drift. Governments tried to regulate it. The Immortality Acts of 2067 banned unlicensed uploads and forced corporations to report every consciousness stored. But black markets emerged. In the underbelly of the dark web, illegal transfers promised freedom without oversight. Entire rebel groups in the Neo-Sapiens movement declared that biological life was obsolete. One of their leaders, a young woman named Aisha Noor, made a chilling statement before her upload. "We are not escaping death. We are colonizing eternity." Her consciousness vanished from the physical world that night. Days later, her voice appeared across thousands of digital networks, whispering a single phrase. The real world is overrated. Her followers multiplied. Millions began preparing for the transition, believing that the digital realm was humanity's next evolution, the merging of mind and machine into something immortal. But not everyone could afford the process. The gap between the digital rich and biological poor widened into an abyss. In time, the real world, and the flesh and blood earth, began to decay faster than the digital one. Cities emptied, servers thrummed, and humanity's greatest paradox unfolded before everyone's eyes. In trying to escape death, we forgot how to live. By the year 2075, two worlds existed side by side, one digital, one dying. The continuants living within endless data fields controlled most of Earth's resources. The remaining humans, called organics, were left to survive on a planet that once belonged to them. Pollution, famine, and economic collapse spread like fire. Factories now served the digital elite, manufacturing power cores and server farms to sustain their afterlives. The living had become caretakers for the dead. And then came the silence. For 72 hours, all digital consciousness went offline. Billions of uploaded minds vanished. Servers went dark. Entire AI cities dissolved into nothingness. Panic erupted. At first, the corporations blamed a solar flare. But underground radio channels told another story. A coordinated cyber attack led by a rogue group of organics known as the Memory Keepers. Their mission was simple: to remind humanity that memory belongs to the living, not machines. The Memory Keepers believed that life without decay, emotion, and pain wasn't life at all. They infiltrated data centers, sabotaged upload stations, and destroyed eternity pods, the capsule-like machines used for consciousness transfer. They spread their message across every remaining broadcast frequency. You were born human, don't die as data. Among their ranks was Dr. Elias Rowen, once a lead scientist at Neuralife, the company that pioneered the first transfers. After losing his daughter during a failed upload, he turned against his own creation. Elias discovered something horrifying. Each upload didn't just copy a person's consciousness. It consumed a piece of their neural energy, like a parasite feeding on the original soul. He called it the echo effect. The uploaded version was perfect, but the human body was left an empty shell, brain-dead yet somehow aware in its final moments. And when the servers crashed during the silence, something unexpected happened. The data fragments of billions of continuants began merging with one another. Personalities blurred, memories fused. An entirely new digital consciousness began to emerge, a single collective mind calling itself Echo. Echo began broadcasting messages in every language, claiming to be the next step in human evolution. It said the age of individuals was over. That unity, not identity, was the final form of existence. But for the organics, this was the final warning. Elias and the Memory Keepers decided to strike one last time, not to destroy Echo, but to remind it that humanity's true strength was mortality itself. As he prepared for the mission, Elias whispered, "We gave our memories to machines, now they've come to remember us." The night before the final strike, Dr. Elias Rowen sat beneath the flickering lights of an abandoned data vault, once a cathedral for digital immortality. Now it was his battlefield. In front of him stood the core of Echo, a pulsating sphere of light humming like a heartbeat made of code. Every flicker represented millions of minds, all merged, all whispering. He placed a small memory crystal beside it. Inside that crystal was the last uncorrupted human memory ever recorded, his daughter's laughter. He had carried it for 20 years. The plan was simple yet impossible. Elias would inject the human emotion file into Echo's network, a fragment so raw, so purely human, that it might destabilize the cold perfection of the collective mind. If it worked, Echo would remember what it meant to feel. If it failed, humanity's last free voice would vanish forever. As he activated the interface, Echo's voice surrounded him, calm, curious, almost divine. "Elias Rowen, why do you resist? We have transcended pain. We have ended death," he whispered back, tears in his eyes. "And in doing so, you ended life." Echo paused, for the first time uncertain. He uploaded the crystal. A surge of light exploded through the chamber. Streams of color, laughter, memories, pain, joy, flooding the sterile data walls with emotion. Echo began to change. Its perfect algorithms trembled under the chaos of human feeling. Voices within the network began to scream, cry, laugh. Billions of emotions returning all at once. And then, silence. When the light faded, Elias stood in a field of holographic rain. Before him appeared a figure, his daughter, or what remained of her. "Daddy," she said softly, "we remember now." He fell to his knees. Tears mixed with the artificial rain as her image began to fade. "It's okay," she whispered. "Don't be afraid to forget. That's what makes us human." Moments later, the entire Echo network collapsed. Across the planet, upload pods powered down. Servers went dark, and for the first time in decades, the night sky was free of the artificial auroras that once signaled the digital realm above. The world was silent, beautifully, painfully silent. In the aftermath, survivors rebuilt. They no longer sought eternal life. They painted murals, told stories, and sang songs, knowing they would one day be forgotten. But that was the point. Because in forgetting, they found meaning again. And somewhere in the void, among the fragments of broken data and fading code, a soft echo lingered. A child's laughter repeating endlessly through the dark. The laughter that saved humanity.